Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to have a look at this question of probability. Now, the question is telling us that during inter-school competitions, rugby and football teams from Kisii School took part. The probability that the rugby will win their first match was 1/8, while that the handball team could lose was 4/7. Now, find the probability that A. Both teams won their first matches, and B. At least one team won the first match. Now, reflecting back on our question, we have two independent events. That is rugby and handball. These are two independent events, and therefore we can use a tree diagram to solve part A and part B. Now, using a tree diagram, we have the probability that rugby won the first match, and also the probability that rugby did not won the first match. So I put this, that is rugby loses. This one is the symbol for rugby loses. And this one is the symbol for rugby wins the first match. Now, we have been given the probability that rugby wins the first match, and it is 1/8. Then we also have an event whereby there is the probability that handball wins the first match, and the probability that handball will not win the first match. Now, we have been given that the probability that handball loses the first match as 4/7. And therefore, if it loses, the probability that it loses is 4/7, then the probability that handball win the first match is 1 minus 4/7, which is 3/7. And in this case, we have been given the probability that rugby wins the first match. And therefore, the probability that rugby will lose the first match is 1 minus 1/8, which is 7/8. And therefore, for the case of question A, or part A of the question, which is telling us to find the probability that both teams won their first matches. That means we shall have the probability that rugby wins the first match, and the probability that handball wins the first match. And therefore, we shall have, that is, probability that rugby wins is 1/8, and in that is in probability symbolizes multiplication. Then the probability that handball wins is 3/7. That is 3/7. And if you multiply them, then you will obtain 1 times 3 is 7, and 8 times 7 is 56. And that is the answer for part A. Now, let us have a look at part B of the question. Part B is telling us to find the probability that at least one team won the first match. Now, at least in probability, that is, they say at least one team. At least one team won. So that means it can either be one team that has won, or two teams that have won. And in this case, it means we shall have the probability that rugby wins and handball wins. Or we shall have the probability that rugby won and handball loses. Or the probability that rugby loses and handball wins. Those are the three cases that we shall have to represent this statement that says at least one team won the first match. That it can be both the teams won or one team won and the other loses. And that is the meaning of this statement. Now, if we have the figures, then we will have the probability that rugby wins is 1/8. That is 1/8. Then the statement and means multiplication in probability. So we shall have 1/8. Then times the probability that handball wins. The probability that handball wins is 3/7. So we shall have 3/7. Then the statement or means addition in probability. The probability that rugby wins is 1/8. Then and means multiplication. Then the probability that handball loses is 4/7. So I will write it that way. Then the statement or means addition. The probability that rugby loses is 7/8. Then times the probability that handball wins. Handball wins is 3/7. Now, in this case, we shall have 1/8 times 3/7 is 3/56. Then plus 1/8 times 4/7 is 4/56. Then plus 7/8 times 3/7 is 21/56. And therefore, in this case, 3/56 plus 4/56 plus 21/56 is 28/56. And if we simplify further, then we shall have a half or 0.5, and that is the probability that at least one team won the first match.